why in the United States of America we need 500,000 aliens given commercial driver's license to compete against American drivers. What is the logic of that, sir?
Well, it's an irresponsible logic that's been parroted by the lobbyist group in Washington D.C. And so it's not necessary. You know, there's been this narrative that's been pushed out into the industry that says that we have a driver shortage, and it's always continuously seems to be the same number of 80,000 drivers. When we first started bringing awareness to this issue, we found very quickly that we had over 6 million CDLs, as reported by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's website online. But when we made that statement, when we made that claim, it's like, well, that number's bad. That data is bad. Well, if that data is the only public source of data that's available for everyone to use to make the claims on how many CDL drivers we have in the United States, how can you also tell us that there's a shortage? If we don't have the data, how can you have a number that tells us how many drivers we don't have? The answer is there is no shortage. If there was a shortage, they wouldn't just be pulling drivers from third world countries. They would be pulling drivers from everywhere they could possibly recruit them from. But what we've identified is that the 10 states that are responsible for flooding our highways with all of these unvetted, untrained, and unqualified drivers are only insourcing drivers from third world countries. Countries like Serbia, countries like Ethiopia, countries like India, Ecuador, Honduras. These are all places where the workers from those countries have third world living standards, that they're comfortable receiving third world living wages. And so they're able to come in here and displace American workers when they don't have to be paid a prevailing wage, when they don't have to pay any federal income taxes, they don't have to pay any state income taxes, they don't have to receive any health care benefits. And that's because the majority of all of these workers that they've brought in and issued these CDLs are not here on proper work visas. They're here on, and they're abusing these B1 visitor visas. They're abusing these EAD cards, these employment authorization documents, and they're being issued an unusual new phenomenon, what everyone now knows to be this non-domicile CDL. And so prior to the Biden administration issuing new guidance and saying that these rogue states could issue non-domiciled CDLs, our trucking industry was not experiencing this phenomenon. And so this is completely new. And, I think it's a blessing that God is using Steve Bannon and the War Room Posse, that God's using Secretary Marco Rubio and Secretary Duffy, because there are people all across this country who are brokenhearted. They're broken-spirited because either their families have been killed and they don't really understand the circumstances of how that was possible. Or you also have families who have lost generations of wealth as the companies that they own and operate have been subsidizing losses for the last 3 to 4 years as they try to compete with this new ecosystem of drivers that we've never had to compete with before.